By the end of the week, Zuri had fallen into a rhythm she never imagined possible. Mornings began with study sessions, afternoons with books or quiet piano melodies, evenings with dinners that Min-jae often insisted they share. Sometimes they spoke little, sometimes their conversations stretched into the night. But the house was no longer silent. It was no longer cold. And yet, outside their sanctuary, the world was watching. One Saturday morning, Min-jae announced that they were going out again. Where to this time? Zuri asked, adjusting her cardigan. He glanced at her with a faint smile. There's a gala. Business partners, politicians, people who think their names matter. Normally, I don't care for such events. But tonight, I want you there with me. Her eyes widened. Me? At a gala? With you? Yes. His voice was firm. They need to see you. But She hesitated, her chest tightening. I don't belong in that world. People will talk. They will, he said bluntly. Then his gaze softened. But you won't face them alone. Something in the way he said it sent a strange heat into her chest. The gala was held in one of Seoul's most opulent hotels. Chandeliers glittering, red carpet unfurled across marble floors. Limousines lined the entrance, flashing cameras snapping at every arrival. When Min-jae stepped out of his sleek black car, all eyes turned. Whispers rose like smoke. It's him, the Mafia boss. Why is he here? He never comes to these events. And who's that with him? Zuri stepped out slowly, her hand trembling as Min-jae's fingers closed around hers. He was solid, steady, unshakable, while she felt the weight of every stare pressing down on her. But when she looked up at him, his eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, the world blurred. You're safe, he murmured, just for her. And with that, they walked forward together. Inside, the ballroom glittered with wealth. Men in sharp suits, women in shimmering gowns, laughter that rang hollow. The air was thick with perfume and pretense. Zuri clung to Min-jae's arm as he led her through the crowd. Every step brought new whispers. Who is she? She doesn't look like us. Is he really parading an African girl around? She must be using him. That's the only explanation. The words cut, sharp as knives. Zuri's chest burned, but Min-jae's grip never faltered. He guided her straight to the center of the room, where the city's elite had gathered. Min-jae, one man greeted, forcing a smile. It's been a long time, and this must be. His eyes flicked to Zuri, hesitation dripping from his tone. Your companion? Min-jae's voice was cold steel. This is Zuri, and she is not my companion. She is my wife. The room stilled. Gasps echoed. Wine glasses trembled in hands. Zuri's breath caught. Wife. He had said it so firmly, as if daring anyone to challenge him. Heat flooded her cheeks, but his arm around her tightened. A silent reassurance. The man chuckled nervously. Ah, of course. A pleasure to meet you, Zuri. But the whispers grew louder, spreading like wildfire. Wife. He married her? Unbelievable. Later that evening, as they danced under the soft glow of chandeliers, Zuri finally whispered, Why did you say that, wife? Min-jae's eyes bored into hers, his hand firm against her back. Because it silences questions. And because one day, it might not be a lie. Her breath hitched. She wanted to argue, but the words died in her throat. The truth was, a dangerous part of her wanted it not to be a lie either. But not everyone was willing to accept the image Min-jae had painted. As the night wore on, a woman approached them. A tall, elegant figure in a crimson dress, her beauty sharp as glass. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Min-jae, she purred. I didn't expect you here. And with her. Zuri's stomach twisted. The woman's gaze slid over her like a blade. You must be new. Do you know who you're standing next to? Do you know the kind of man he really is? Before Zuri could answer, Min-jae's voice cut through the tension. Enough, Sumin. The woman smirked. You think parading her here will change who you are? The city will never accept her. You'll ruin her. Zuri flinched, her chest tightening. Was that true? But Min-jae stepped forward, his presence towering. The only one who can ruin her is herself. And she is stronger than you think. Sumin's smirk faltered. She turned sharply and walked away, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor. Zuri's breath trembled. She's right, isn't she? People won't accept me. They'll only drag you down. Min-jae cupped her chin, forcing her eyes to his. Listen to me. The world has hated me for years. Do you think their opinion matters? The only thing that matters is you. Do you want to stand with me, Zuri? Her heart thundered. She swallowed hard. Yes. Then let them talk. And in that moment, under the stares of a city that didn't understand, Zuri felt stronger than she ever had before. The following day, the headlines blazed. Mafia boss seen with mystery black woman at gala. Claims she's his wife. Shock waves in Seoul. Who is Zuri? Forbidden love or dangerous alliance? Zuri sat at the breakfast table, scrolling through article after article. Her chest ached with every cruel word. Foreign. Outsider. Unworthy. Min-jae entered, tossing a newspaper onto the table. Don't waste your time on garbage. But they're tearing me apart, she whispered. Let them. His gaze was firm. You are mine. That's all that matters. Her throat tightened. But what if they hurt you because of me? Min-jae leaned closer, his voice a low growl. No one touches what's mine. Ever. Zuri's heart raced. She didn't know if it was fear or hope or something deeper. But as his hand brushed over hers, she realized something undeniable. The world could gossip. Society could sneer. Her adoptive parents could pretend to check in while secretly celebrating her supposed downfall. But none of them had the power to erase the way Min-jae looked at her, as though she was the only truth in a world of lies. And for the first time, Zuri began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could learn to love him back. Zuri thought she had left the Hans behind, his adoptive parents. In her mind, they were shadows from a painful chapter of her life. People who had taken her in when she was a child but never truly loved her. People who, in the end, had sold her like a commodity. But ghosts had a way of returning. And this time, they came knocking on Min-jae's gates. It was a gray morning in Seoul, the kind where the clouds hung low and the air smelled of rain. Zuri was sipping tea in the living room when the maid walked in, pale and hesitant. Miss Zuri, she said carefully, there are 2 visitors outside. They say they are your parents. The porcelain cup trembled in Zuri's hands before she set it down. Her chest tightened, the word parents burning in her ears. Slowly, she rose and walked to the security screen. There they were. Mr. Han, tall but aging, his once kind eyes dulled into calculation. Beside him stood Mrs. Han, her posture sharp, her mouth fixed in a smile that looked rehearsed. Zuri's breath caught. Memories stabbed through her. Her mother's jealous accusations, her father's cold silence, the endless chores, the humiliation of being forced into a poor university while they flaunted wealth. And worst of all, the night they had looked her in the eye and agreed to sell her. Why are they here now? Before she could answer her own question, Min-jae's reflection appeared on the screen beside her. His sharp features remained unreadable, but his eyes flicked to hers, seeing the storm in them. You know them, he said softly. It wasn't a question. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. They're the ones who raised me, the ones who sold me to you. He studied her a moment longer. Do you want to see them? Her throat tightened. I don't know. Min-jae placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. His voice was firm, yet gentle. Remember this, Zuri. You owe them nothing, not even a conversation. But against her better judgment, Zuri stepped out into the courtyard. The moment her parents saw her, Mrs. Han rushed forward with open arms. Zuri, my daughter, how we've missed you. Zuri stood still, stiff as marble. The hug felt wrong, forced like fabric pressed against wounds. Her father's smile was practiced, his tone dripping with false warmth. We came as soon as we heard the news. We had to see you. You're married now to such an important man. We're so proud. Zuri's jaw clenched. Proud? Where had their pride been when she cried herself to sleep every night? Before she could respond, Min-jae walked out behind her, his presence towering. He didn't bother to greet them, because this wasn't their first encounter. Mr. Han. Mrs. Han. he said, his voice even yet cold. We've met before. Mrs. Han faltered, her fake smile twitching. Oh, of course. But this is different. We didn't come for business. We came for family. Min Jae's lips curved faintly, but there was no warmth in it. Family. That's a bold word from people who handed her over like a product. The color drained from Mr. Han's face, but he recovered quickly. That was a misunderstanding. We were under pressure and we thought. You thought of yourselves? Min Jae cut in sharply. His eyes flicked to Zuri, who stood trembling but silent. Inside the house, the Hans marveled at the luxury they had once denied Zuri. Mrs. Han's eyes darted greedily to every polished surface, every painting, every chandelier. You live like royalty, she murmured. Zuri sat rigid beside Min Jae, her stomach in knots. Her mother turned to her with a sigh, layering her voice with fake regret. Zuri, my darling, we made mistakes. We didn't know how to raise a girl like you. You were different and it scared us. But now look at you, married to such a powerful man. We just want to be part of your happiness. Zuri's chest ached with fury. Where was that happiness when you sent me to scrub floors? When you reminded me every day I wasn't your real child? Her father interjected quickly, his tone slick. We were strict because we wanted the best for you. And now everything has turned out well. We can finally be a family again. But Zuri heard the truth beneath the words. They didn't want family, they wanted access. To Min Jae, to his empire, to his money. Min Jae leaned forward slowly, his gaze sharp as knives. Let's not waste words. You abandoned her, humiliated her, and when it suited you, you sold her. Don't insult me by pretending you're here for love. Mrs. Han's face hardened, the mask slipping for a second. You don't understand. She owes us. She owes you nothing. Min Jae snapped, his voice like thunder. The room fell silent. Zuri's eyes widened. Her heart pounded at the ferocity in his defense. No one, not once in her life, had stood for her like this. Mr. Han cleared his throat, his pride collapsing under Min Jae's stare. We only want what's best for her. What's best for her, Min Jae said icily, is a life without your poison. The Hans fell silent. Their smiles faltered. They had come expecting weakness. Instead, they had been dismantled. Finally, with stiff goodbyes and promises that rang hollow, they left the mansion. That night, Zuri sat by the window, her thoughts heavy. Seoul glittered outside, but all she could see were the faces of the people who had raised her and discarded her like trash. Min Jae entered quietly, setting a glass of water beside her. He didn't say anything at first, just let the silence breathe. You defended me today, she whispered at last, her voice breaking. I always will, he replied simply. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Part of me still wanted them to mean it. Part of me still wanted them to be real parents. That doesn't make you weak, he said, cupping her face gently. It makes you human. Her breath caught as she looked into his eyes. Why? Why do you care so much, Min Jae? No one else ever has. He held her gaze unflinching. Because I see you. I see the strength in you. I see the fire they tried to put out. And I'll never let anyone dim it again. Her heart twisted, torn between pain and something dangerously close to love. She leaned into his touch, her tears soaking his thumb as he brushed them away. And for the first time in her life, Zuri felt what it meant to be truly, fiercely protected. The rain came that night, heavy, cold, relentless. It pounded against the mansion's glass walls, drowning the city in silver sheets. Zuri lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every word from her parents. You're our daughter. We only want to be part of your happiness. But the way their eyes had lingered on the chandeliers, the marble floors, the wealth surrounding her. It was clear they weren't there for her. They wanted what Min Jae had. She turned over and buried her face in the pillow, tears pressing hot against her lids. She hated herself for still aching, for still wishing, even after all the cruelty, that they would love her for real. Beside her, Min Jae sat in an armchair, reading silently. He didn't say anything, but she felt his gaze flicker to her now and then, as though checking if she was still breathing. When her quiet sob escaped, He set the book down and walked over. "Zuri," he murmured, kneeling beside her. She didn't look at him. "Why does it still hurt? I should hate them. I should be stronger than this." "You are strong," he said firmly. "But strength doesn't erase pain. It just makes you keep walking through it." Finally, she turned her head, meeting his eyes. For the first time, she saw not just the feared Mafia boss, but a man carrying his own shadows. Shadows that somehow understood hers. Far across Seoul, in a dimly lit bar tucked behind the alleys of Gangnam, Mr. and Mrs. Han sat in a booth with two men. Their clothes were expensive, but their faces were lined with bitterness. "You saw it yourself," Mrs. Han whispered, her voice low but venomous. "That man humiliated us. He treated us like beggars. After everything we sacrificed for her, he dares to call us poison." Mr. Han's jaw tightened. "We gave her food, shelter, education. And this is the thanks we get? No, we won't let it end like this." One of the men leaned forward, his gold chain glinting under the dim lights. "You're talking about Min Jae, aren't you? Dangerous man, dangerous family." The other man, with a scar across his cheek, chuckled darkly. "But not untouchable. Everyone has a weakness." Mrs. Han's lips curved into a cruel smile. "And his weakness is her." The men exchanged glances. They already knew Min Jae's empire was ironclad. But if there was a way to break through, it would be through the African girl he had married. "We can help you," the scarred man said slowly. "But it will cost you." Mrs. Han didn't hesitate. "We're willing to pay. We want what's rightfully ours. Wealth, influence, what we deserve for raising her." Mr. Han nodded. "Use her. Break him. Then we'll finally get our share." Back in the mansion, Zuri spent her days half in silence, half in small bursts of laughter Min Jae managed to pull from her. One afternoon, he caught her in the kitchen, attempting to cook jollof rice the way she remembered from Africa. Her sleeves were rolled up, her face glowing from the steam. Min Jae leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, quietly watching. "You're staring," she said without turning, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Because I've never seen you look more alive," he answered honestly. She blushed, shaking her head. "It probably tastes terrible." Later, when he tried it, he made a face so dramatic that she burst out laughing, the first real, belly-deep laugh in weeks. For a moment, the heaviness lifted, and she realized how safe she felt with him. But safety was dangerous too, because safety led to trust, and trust led to love. And love, she wasn't sure she was ready to give again. A week after her parents' visit, Zuri found a letter slipped under the mansion's gates. It was handwritten in a delicate script she recognized instantly, Mrs. Han's. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. "My daughter," the letter began. "Please forgive us for the past. We only want to see you again. Meet us tomorrow at the tea house near Cheongdam. Come alone. We promise no tricks. Just love." Zuri's stomach nodded. Just love. The words felt like a knife twisting. She debated hiding it from Min Jae. He had already defended her fiercely. She didn't want to look weak in his eyes, but something in her told her she shouldn't keep this from him. That night, she placed the letter on his desk. He read it silently, his expression unreadable. Finally, he set it down. "And what do you want to do?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Part of me still wants to believe them, to believe they care." Min Jae's jaw flexed. He walked to her and cupped her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Listen to me, Zuri. They sold you. People like that don't change. They're playing another game." Her eyes glistened. "Then why does it still hurt this much?" His voice softened. "Because you have a heart, and they don't." What Zuri didn't know was that Min Jae had already received intel from his men. The Hans had been seen with known enemies of his syndicate. The so-called meeting at the tea house was a trap. He didn't tell her that. Not yet. He didn't want to shatter what little hope she still carried. But in his mind, one truth blazed clear. If they tried to use her again, he would burn their world down. The next day, Zuri sat in the garden, sketching absent-mindedly. She didn't hear Min Jae approach until his shadow fell across her page. "You're quiet," he observed. She smiled faintly. "Drawing helps me breathe." What are you drawing? She hesitated, then showed him the page. A sketch of two figures standing beneath a tree. One tall and broad, the other smaller, her hand tucked safely in his. Min-jae studied it for a long moment. Then he said, almost in a whisper, "Is that supposed to be us?" Her cheeks heated. "Maybe." He smiled then. Not the cold, sharp smile the world knew, but something softer. Something just for her. And in that moment, Zuri felt something shift in her chest. Like a door creaking open, letting light spill in. Far away in the smoky bar, Mrs. Han tightened her grip on her teacup, her eyes gleaming with malice. "She'll come," she told the scarred man. "She always comes when we call. She still wants us. That's how we'll break her. And when she breaks, Min-jae will break too." The man smirked. "Then it's settled. Tomorrow we start the game." And with that, the trap was set. The morning air in Cheongdam was crisp, almost too calm. Autumn leaves fluttered from the ginkgo trees, painting the sidewalks in hues of gold. Zuri clutched her shawl tighter around her shoulders as she approached the tea house her mother had named. Her heart thudded wildly. She hadn't told Min-jae she planned to come. She remembered his warning, his words heavy with certainty. They don't change. But what if he was wrong? What if, for once, her parents truly wanted her, not the wealth, not the power, but her? She paused outside the glass doors. The tea house looked harmless, elegant even, with its carved wooden beams and soft lighting. But something in her chest tugged uneasily. "You're being paranoid," she told herself. "They're your parents. They wouldn't hurt you." Taking a breath, she stepped inside. At a corner table, Mr. and Mrs. Han rose when they saw her. Mrs. Han rushed forward, grasping her hands with a practiced smile. "My baby, you came," she said, voice trembling as if overcome with emotion. Zuri tried to smile back, but her pulse was hammering. She let herself be guided to the table. The aroma of jasmine tea filled the air, sweet and calming, but her stomach was knotted too tight to taste anything. "You look so beautiful," Mrs. Han continued, her eyes flicking to the designer shawl draped over Zuri. "Min-jae must be treating you well. We only wanted to see if you were happy." Mr. Han leaned forward, his voice smoother than she remembered. "We've missed you, Zuri. Truly. We want to be part of your life again." For a moment, she almost believed them. But then she noticed something. The way Mr. Han's gaze darted toward the entrance, as though waiting for someone. The faint, nervous tap of his finger on the teacup. Her throat tightened. "Who are you waiting for?" she asked quietly. Mrs. Han's smile faltered for half a second before she forced it back. "No one, sweetheart. Why would you say that?" And then, as if on cue, two men slid into the booth behind them. Their presence was heavy, their eyes sharp. One had a scar slashing across his cheek. The other wore a gold chain that caught the light. Recognition slammed into Zuri. She had seen them once before, years ago, lurking around her parents' house. Men who whispered threats when debts weren't paid. Her blood ran cold. "This wasn't about me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "This was about him. About Min-jae." Mr. Han didn't deny it. His lips pressed into a thin line. "You don't understand. That man is dangerous. If we don't act first, he'll destroy us all." Zuri's chest ached. "So you're using me. Again." Mrs. Han reached out, but Zuri jerked her hand away. No, we're protecting you. These men, they can help us. Together we can bring Min-jae down. Then you'll be free." "Free?" Zuri laughed bitterly, tears stinging her eyes. "You sold me once, and now you want to sell me again. You've never wanted me free. You've only wanted me useful." The scarred man smirked, leaning closer. "She's smarter than you said." Mrs. Han's face twisted with desperation. "Zuri, listen. We did what we had to for survival. You don't know the sacrifices we made to raise you." "Sacrifices?" Her voice cracked. "You call selling your daughter a sacrifice? You call this love?" Her words echoed through the tea house, drawing a few glances, but the men's presence kept anyone from intervening. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then the gold-chained man spoke. "Enough. We didn't come here for family drama. We came for leverage. The girl is leverage." Zuri's stomach dropped. He snapped his fingers, and suddenly, two more men appeared from the shadows of the tea house, stepping toward her. Her chair scraped loudly as she stood, panic surging. No! But before the men could touch her, the doors of the tea house slammed open. Min-jae walked in. The room froze. His tall frame filled the doorway, clad in a dark coat that clung to his broad shoulders. His presence was like a storm entering a room. Cold, electric, suffocating. Touch her, Min-jae said quietly, his Korean sharp as a blade. And it will be the last thing you do. The men stiffened, but the scarred one smirked, feigning calm. Ah, Min-jae, we were just having tea. No harm done. Min-jae's eyes, black and burning, flicked to Zuri. She stood trembling, tears streaking her face. He noted the way she had pushed herself back against the table, cornered like prey. His jaw tightened. Zuri, he said softly, switching to English for her sake. Come here. She hesitated, her heart pounding. She wanted to run to him to feel safe, but her parents' words still lingered. He's dangerous. He'll destroy us all. She looked at him, then at them, torn. Seeing her hesitation, Min-jae's expression darkened. He turned to the Hans. How many times must I warn you to stay away from her? Mrs. Han stood, her voice desperate. We're her parents. We only want what's best for her. Parents? Min-jae's laugh was low and cold. Parents don't sell their child to strangers. Parents don't hand her over to enemies for their own gain. You lost the right to call yourselves that the day you betrayed her. Zuri's chest heaved. Hearing those words aloud shattered something inside her. She had always hoped deep down that maybe they cared. But now, with Min-jae laying their betrayal bare, there was no room left for illusions. The scarred man rose, cracking his knuckles. Enough talking. You can't protect her forever, Min-jae. We'll find another way to break you. Min-jae's lips curved in a deadly smile. Try. In one swift motion, his men stormed in through the back entrance, silent, lethal, surrounding the tea house. Guns glinted under the dim lights. The enemies froze, realizing they had walked into their own trap. Min-jae extended his hand toward Zuri. Come. This time she didn't hesitate. She ran to him, clutching his arm as though it was the only anchor in a collapsing world. He pulled her close, his hand resting protectively on her back. To the Hans, he said, his voice icy. If you ever approach her again, I will erase your names from this city. Do you understand me? Mr. Han paled, his bravado crumbling. Mrs. Han tried to speak, but no words came. Min-jae didn't wait for an answer. With Zuri in his arms, he walked out of the tea house, leaving chaos behind. The ride back to the mansion was silent at first. Zuri sat curled against the car door, staring out at the neon-lit streets, her body trembling from the confrontation. Finally, she whispered, You were right. They don't love me. They never did. Min-jae looked at her, his expression unreadable. You needed to see it for yourself. Her voice cracked. Why does it hurt so much then? He reached out, gently brushing a tear from her cheek. Because you still hoped. And hope is harder to kill than love. She broke then, sobs racking her body. Min-jae pulled her into his chest, holding her tightly as though he could shield her from the world. And for the first time, Zuri didn't resist. She let herself lean on him, her heart breaking open. Fragile but no longer alone. Outside, the city blurred past. Inside, a bond was quietly solidifying, no longer just protection, no longer just obligation, but something far more dangerous. Something that felt a lot like love. The black car rolled through the heavy iron gates of Min-jae's mansion. The headlights washed over the tall marble pillars and the fountain that glittered under the moonlight. But Zuri didn't lift her head to look. She was curled against the seat, eyes swollen. Her hands clenched in her lap as though she were holding herself together. Min-jae glanced at her, silent. He didn't try to talk. He understood silence could be safer than words. When the car stopped, he stepped out first and extended his hand. Zuri hesitated, then placed her trembling fingers in his. His grip was firm, steady, as though promising she wouldn't fall. The marble steps of the mansion gleamed under the night sky. Guards bowed their heads as they entered, but Min-jae waved them away. Tonight, he didn't want anyone near her. Inside, the mansion was warm, its high ceilings and golden chandeliers glowing softly. Usually, the house felt like a palace. But tonight, Zuri felt small in it, fragile, as if she didn't belong anywhere. Min-jae led her upstairs, not to the grand bedroom where she usually stayed, but to a quiet room she had never noticed before. The door creaked open to reveal walls painted in soft cream, shelves stacked with books, and a wide window overlooking the garden. "This is my private study," he said, his voice low. "No one comes in here. Tonight, it's yours." Zuri blinked at him, confused. "Why?" "Because you need a place where you can breathe. And I need you to know you're safe." Her throat tightened. Safe. The word felt like a luxury she hadn't known in years. She stepped inside slowly, tracing her fingers along the wooden desk, the spines of books. It wasn't cold or intimidating like the rest of the mansion. It was human. When she turned, Min-jae was still by the door, his coat draped over one arm. He studied her with those sharp eyes that always seemed unreadable to others. But to her, tonight, they looked softer. "You don't have to talk," he said. "Not about them. Not about what happened. But if you want to, I'll listen. If you don't, I'll stay. Either way, I'm here." The gentleness in his words cracked her composure. She lowered her face, tears spilling down her cheeks. I thought maybe they changed," she whispered. "A part of me still wanted them to love me. I feel so stupid." "You're not stupid." His voice cut through her sobs, calm but firm. "You're human, and humans hope, even when it hurts them." Her shoulders shook. "Why wasn't I enough for them?" Min-jae crossed the room and crouched before her. He reached out, not grabbing, just resting his hand near hers on the chair's arm. "You were too much for them, Zuri. Too good. People like them don't know how to love someone who shines brighter than their own greed." His words lodged deep in her chest. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the feared Mafia man people whispered about, but someone who had seen betrayal too and survived it. "Why are you like this with me?" she asked softly. "Everyone says you're cold, ruthless." A small smile tugged at his lips. "Because everyone else sees what I want them to see. You see what I've spent years hiding. And I can't hide from you anymore." Her heart stuttered. She wanted to look away, but his gaze pinned her in place. The silence stretched, heavy but not suffocating. Finally, Min-jae stood and moved toward the window. "You should rest," he said, his tone shifting back to practical. "I'll have someone bring food upstairs. Stay here tonight if you want. No one will disturb you." But Zuri shook her head. I don't want to be alone." The admission slipped out before she could stop it. Heat rushed to her cheeks, but it was too late, he had heard. He turned, his eyes darkening, but not with anger, with something deeper. He nodded once, then crossed to the bookshelf. He pulled out a thick blanket, folded neatly. Walking back, he draped it gently over her shoulders. "Then you won't be." Later that night, the study was quiet except for the crackle of the fireplace Min-jae had lit. Zuri sat curled on the sofa, sipping warm tea. Across from her, Min-jae leaned back in a chair, his tie loosened, his usual sharpness softened by the flicker of firelight. It was strange, sitting like this with him, almost domestic, almost like they were two ordinary people at the end of a long day. She set her cup down. "Do you ever regret the life you chose?" He didn't answer immediately. His gaze stayed on the flames. "Every man regrets something," he said finally. "But I don't regret surviving. I don't regret protecting the people I care about." Her eyes lingered on him. "And do you care about me?" The question hung between them like fragile glass. Min-jae met her gaze. His expression didn't change, but his voice was steady. "More than I should." Her breath caught. Before she could speak, he stood, breaking the tension. "It's late. Get some sleep." But his hand brushed her hair as he passed, a fleeting touch that sent warmth rushing through her veins. That night, Zuri slept in the study. For the first time in years, her dreams weren't filled with abandonment or fear. When she stirred awake at dawn, a soft blanket was tucked tightly around her shoulders, and on the desk beside her sat a plate of fruit and a handwritten note. You'll need your strength." Her lips curved into the smallest smile. Over the next days, Min-jae didn't press her. He didn't ask questions about her parents or force her into conversations she wasn't ready for. Instead, he gave her small anchors. Meals shared in the garden, quiet walks on the mansion's grounds, late-night chess games in the study. It was subtle, almost invisible, but Zuri began to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. One afternoon, as they walked along the koi pond, she stopped suddenly. The water shimmered, orange and white fish gliding gracefully beneath the surface. She turned to him, her eyes searching. "You really don't expect anything from me, do you?" Min-jae tilted his head. "Should I?" She shook her head, tears gathering again. But this time, they weren't from pain. "No one's ever let me just be. Not my parents, not society. Always demands, always conditions. But you just let me exist." He stepped closer, his voice a whisper. "Because you're enough as you are." Her breath hitched, and for the first time she didn't pull back. She let him brush a tear from her cheek, his fingers lingering. And in that quiet, golden moment by the pond, Zuri realized healing wasn't about forgetting the wounds her parents had left. It was about finding someone who reminded her she wasn't defined by them. That night, she wrote in her journal, a habit she had abandoned years ago. "For the first time, I'm not alone. For the first time, I believe I can be loved. Not because I'm useful, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm me." And when she closed the journal, she found Min-jae standing at the doorway, watching silently. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to, because in his eyes, she saw the answer she had been searching for all her life.
Hello besties, protected, pampered yet still in danger. Zuri's life with Min-jae is only beginning, but enemies are closing in. What will happen next? Episode 3 holds the answer. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and share.